Today we're finishing off the set of fingerstyle songs found on the Beatles' 1968 release, widely known as the White Album. We've had 2 from John Lennon, Dear Prudence and Julia, and we've got 2 from Paul McCartney, the brilliant Blackbird that we went through last week, and the equally brilliant but perhaps less well known Mother Nature's Son. Hey, my name is Ry Naylor. I am a guitar teacher and content creator based in the south of France, and my mission here is to help you grow as a guitarist, going a little deeper and bringing some extra insight into the songs you love to learn. For Mother Nature's Son, we have more of Paul McCartney's unique approach to fingerpicking, but the real treat here are these chord progressions and his approach to using triads and chord embellishments to beautifully complement his melodies. As always, I'll break the song down into its different sections and I'll present 2 playthroughs with the beat at a slower and then full tempo. Tabs of my transcription will be available to members of my Patreon group. You can find out more about that with the link in the cards or in the video description. Let's get stuck in. Let's start with a review of the picking technique. Now, I'd recommend you go and check out the Blackbird lesson if you've not yet seen that, because that breaks it down in a lot more detail. But McCartney's technique, we're only using the thumb and the index finger, and that's it. The thumb is going to be grabbing the bass notes. Now for this song it's predominantly the open D string, and the index finger is going to come from underneath the strings and flick upwards, so the thumb and the finger come together, they close in on one another. So that is the basic setup. Now picking pattern number 1 is going to be like an 8th note figure. 1, 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So the thumb and the index come together on beat 1, and then the finger is going to do all the work with the top side of the nail. 1, 2 and 3 and 4. So it's up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That's pattern number 1. Pattern 2 is in a 1/4 note figure that's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So the thumb hits on 1 and 3, and the index is going up and down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the 2. So pattern 1, pattern 2. Another thing to be up to speed with would be some triad shapes, because we see them a lot in this song. It makes for some great chord progressions. So the first setup then is going to be the D triad, right? The open D chord is in fact a triad shape if we eliminate the open string 4. So this here is a D triad with the D being in the middle on string number 2. So if I would take this shape up, that would be an E triad, F triad, up a whole step. That's a G triad, right? That note on string 2 is a G, 7, 8, 7, the frets. So that is a G. We've got D and G. Just around here we have 7, 7, 5 is the next shape up of the D chord with the D on string number 3. So we're going to need that one, D and D, G. And then down here, 4, 3, 3 with a mini bar, that is a G triad with the root note on string number 1. So G, G was up here, D, D. So the song begins with what is actually you could call a B minor triad. That's G4, B3, E2. But we're going to pick the bass note, string 3, and then 2 and 1 together. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we drop the note to an A on string 3. So it's a D chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we lower that note again. 2, 3, 4. Now already that's very cool. What we've got here are the notes of an E dominant ninth, an E9 chord. Because with E as the root there, we have G sharp is the 3rd of the chord, we have D, which is the flat 7, so that there is giving like an E7 sound, and then we have the F sharp. Now that's the 2nd note of an E scale, but as a chord tone, we identify it as the ninth because we have the third present. When the third is in there, the 2 becomes a 9. So 3, flat 7, and 9 for an E dominant ninth. So 8 seconds we kick into 168 BPM with a slight swing, a slight shuffle to the strumming pattern. So what I showed you before is there's just a slight unevenness to the strum. Try and get that in there if you can. If not, don't worry, but that's just getting you a little bit closer to the original sound. But we open up with a D5. So my setup here is the D chord, but with a bar across strings 1, 2, and 3 in the 2nd fret, because we need that in just a moment. We're going to reach with the pinky for a D5. Root 5, root 5, no third, so it's named a D5 chord. And we do picking pattern number 1. So. But on beat 4, you lift off the pinky to reveal the D chord. It's 1, 2, and 3, and 4. The 2nd measure, then we go to A, D, sus4. So 3rd fret on string 1. And again on beat number 4, it goes to the D chord, leading down into the start of 3rd measure into a D sus2, so open string 1. So the end of that 3rd measure, we walk up back to the sus. 1, 2, and 3, D sus4. And then we start there in the 4th measure and we go pull off onto the D. 2, and 3, and 4. The 2nd half of that intro, again it starts with the sus2 hammered onto the D. Then we go D, hammer onto the sus4. Back to the D on beat 4. So that was D. And then we go sus2 D. sus2 on the end of beat 4, and then again sus to end that intro. So the verse at 20 seconds, we start with the D chord in position, picking pattern 1, so 3 and 4, then we go D sus, stay there. On beat 4 you flick off to reveal the D again, and then we have a 4th measure of D. Then we have those intro chords, but this time with that picking pattern. So D over A, E9, let's call it. On that following measure you hit that bass note. Then at 31 seconds we come to an A chord, but we're going to play it with the root note at fret number 5 of string 1. So what happens here is that picking pattern 2 with the quarter note figure. We start with the thumb on string 5, and then we're going to go down on beat 2 with the top of the nail. So it's 1, 2, and then we're going to go to an A sus4. So we put the 2nd finger on the 3rd fret. A sus. So it's A sus, A sus, A sus, A. You just keep doing that for 4 measures. So the thumb is doing the half notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that. And then 37, we're back on a D chord, pattern number 1 again. But we move on the upbeat of 3. Sus, we go a quick sus D. Sus4. The following measure, then we come to this chord, which is a D minor 7, but this here is like that F triad, but with an open D. We can call it F over D, and D minor 7. And what happens here is we do the strum, but he hits fret number 3 on the and of 3. 1, 2, and 3, and then it slides into the 5th fret. Now, first time he sort of slips up on this part, but then that sets up the hand to grab the G triad over the D bass. And there's a movement again on the upbeat of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Grab the 5th fret, and then off on the 4. 1, 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And then we have the D. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And that goes again, so it's D, sus D, D minor 7, 3 slide, G over D, 5, 3, D. Verse 2 at 48 seconds, then we've got the horns joining in, and it's very similar to verse number 1, but we've just got an arpeggio walk up on the E9 measure. So walking through verse 2 slowly, it would be D, sus 4, stay there, sus 4, D, D, B minor, D over A, E9, change here. Those are the notes of an E major arpeggio. So we start picking on the beat with this. We start with the open string 6, then we slide into fret 4 and go from the 2nd fret, 2 on the A, 2 on the D. And that sets up finger 1 nicely to go back to the A chord part again, same as it was before. 4 measures of that one, and then we're into that kind of ending part again. D, D minor 7, slide, G over D, 5, 3, D. But there's a slightly different bit here as we go into like the B section. So on that last D, what we're doing is we're going to go D, D, then you hit the bass and the 3rd fret like the sus, and we're walking up back to the D5 again for this B section where it's going to do, 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 do. section B at 111, we're back into pattern 2 with the quarter notes. What happens here, we've got the vocal melody being harmonized by notes on string number 1. And it goes like this, it goes D5. So it's up, and then we're going to come down with the index. D, D sus4, I grab with 1, 2 and 3 there. Back up to the D5, so D5, D, D sus, D5. Then we're going to move up to that G chord shape in the 7th fret, G over D. So the index picks 1 strum and then picks 2. And then we have the D in this 5th fret. And we have the pattern number 1. Second time, we then go into the D5 again. Same as before, D, sus4, D5, G over D, string 2, D. And then that second time, notice how I grab the D chord. I use fingers 1, 2 and 3 because I need this pinky finger because we're going to be embellishing this again on the and of beat 3. Always on that and beat of 3, we're doing a little bit of movement. 1 minute 20 in the song this is, so it goes D. Then we go to a D major 7, so we're dropping the note on string 3 down 1 fret. That gives us the sound of a D major 7, and we do the same embellishment, same picking. And then we lower that note again to give the sound of, will be a D dominant 7th. And again, that embellishment on the and of 3. So that part from 120 was D, D major 7, D7. Then we stay as we are. We're going to put the 7th fret on string 1 again, like a D7 add 13, you could say. So D7 add, D7. G over D, 5, 3 on the top, G minor over D with the bar finger, and then to the D, D. So there's this beautiful thing going on where we're just descending fret by fret. D, D major 7, D7, then we go da, da, G, G minor, A. Well done, McCartney, great work. Verse 3 at 132, it's the same as verse number 2, and again at the 142 you've got that arpeggio walk up as you go into the A part. D, D minor 7, G over D. And it goes again into the B section at 154. It ends just slightly different. If you go from the G over D, G minor over D, D. It just de-susses just before the end part at 216. So instead of 2 Ds, go to de-sus. And this point at 216 where he's humming the melody and this second guitar part comes in. The part is the same Again, we'll go through that second part in just a moment. So then this last little bit after the A's, we're doing very similar. It's D, D minor 7, G, D. On this last one, we go D, D minor 7, stay there this time, don't slide up. Mother Nature's son. So there's no movement on that last G, just sit tight on the G over D. And it ends on the D chord, where the horns have that C note, so it has the sound of like a D7 to end the song. So breaking down that second guitar part that you clearly hear at 216, what we're going to do is we're fret 4 on the D, fret 2 on the G for like a third and the fifth of the D chord. So it's picking on the beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we raise to a G note on the 5th fret of string 4 and stay on the 2 on string 3. So it goes F sharp, A, F sharp, G, A, G, A, stay there. Then we go like an arpeggio, 3, 5, 1. It's F sharp, A, and D at fret 7 of the G string. So after that arpeggio, we then go 9 on the D, 10 on the E. Do that twice. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we go down a whole step on the D, so 7 and 9 on the E. Then we do that like a pick, pull. Then we slide into the 7th as you then pluck fret 6 on the D, so it's 6 and 7. So it goes. And then we have the E arpeggio, like guitar 1. At that point, and then we have a descending scale going from the E5 of the B string, 5, 3, 2, 4 on the G, 2 on the G, open G, 4 on the D, 2 on the D, ending on the open D string. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, ending like this. So breaking that bit down from the D, it goes D, slide into the 3rd, the F sharp at the 4th fret. Then we go 2 on the G, and then we hit 5 on the G, 5 on the E. And then we take that down to 2 on the G, 1 on the E. Repeat that sequence, but a whole step higher. So then we go 7s and then 4 and 3, and take that shape up to the 10th fret with finger 1, 11, 10, ending on the D chord. So this is like rubbing the F chord, G chord, and D chord to end. There you are, Mother Nature's Son. What a beautiful song. Again, tabs for the lesson will be available to all members of my Patreon group, where you can help support the channel and get exclusive bonuses each month for less than a cup of coffee. Otherwise, you can help support the channel and level up your playing by grabbing one of the products in my online store. Of particular interest for this lesson would be my ebook, The Chord Book Volume 1. Thank you, practice well, and I'll see you next time.